Jay, have you heard of Flip City?
Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
And a bonus issue for Christmas.
I like turtle.
I like turtle.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Edge After Dark. It is the last episode before Christmas. How's everybody doing? Tonight, we have with us the Mexican Iron Man himself, the only man on the panel who has an actual theme song. Should we play it?
Yeah.
Olé!
You see flying through that window. He's the pride of Mexico. No lady can resist the magic of his kiss. The woman is strong. No man can resist the might of his fist. When he starts, you'll be gone, son. That's right.
That's right.
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mexican Iron Man.
Okay, I'm getting dizzy. I'm getting dizzy. I'm getting dizzy.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the program, Mikey. It's been a tick. How you doing, brother?
I can't miss the last show before Christmas with all my best friends.
That's right. Whoops. Sorry about that. Yes, we're glad to have you here.
I'm saying hi to
Merry
all
Christmas.
of you. She's listening live downstairs.
Aw, hello, Mom. How you doing, Mexican Iron Mom?
Literally watching us all on this like a 70-inch TV downstairs right now.
She's like,
says
my
hi to all of
baby's on TV.
Mhm.
He's a YouTuber now.
That.
Don't forget. Don't ever forget.
What the hell?
But anyway, we also have a Canadian with us, not just a Mexican Iron Man. We have a Canadian script doctor. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here before the holidays.
Yes, glad to have you. Glad to have you. You looking festive in your hat.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
And your boardroom there looks like most of Hollywood right now.
Yeah, I'm all alone in here, waiting for a green light, so to speak.
I just want to work. Nobody else does. That's what Script's making up his own musical.
It looks like you got a theme song for me.
Yeah, I do. Speaking of music, we have CC Karaoke here tonight. How you doing?
Doing all right. Looking forward to hearing such a legendary YouTuber talk about this merger.
Yes, this is an interesting talk. I mean, of course, it isn't for sure yet, but we're going to talk about it. We also have Price of Reason with us, who also saw Aquaturd tonight. as well.
I did. I'm in a unique position. I'm all Snydered out. I watched Rebel Moon already last week, and I
That's right.
saw Aqua Turd today.
Yes, the bane of our existence. As much as people want to distance themselves from Snyder from these last few films, it's like, never forget this motherfucker graced us with Ezra Miller and Amber Turd.
He did.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's your fault, jerk. Fucking Snyder bros, I tell you. But you know what? Guess what?
The term
Ding
is,
dong, the DC universe is dead.
the technical term is Snyder Broho community.
Look, I got no issue with Snyder fans. There's a lot of Snyder fans who don't give a shit that I don't like his movies. And there's plenty of people who understand why I don't like the man personally. But when it comes to Snyder hoes gonna hoe for that man all they want. And they're never gonna stop. All 10 of them. But with that, let's get into this show here, because we got Mikey sending in a member chat. Show update is not happening, Mike.
Oh, wait.
Tonight's show will instead be a Snyder Rebel Moon live watch party with your host, Tom Connors. This is not happening, Mike.
What?
It doesn't even drop until like tomorrow.
No.
Or late tonight, like midnight or 2 a.m. or whatever it is.
All right, Tom, you know why I did that? To trigger you.
I'm not going to sit through this crap.
Tom, I just want to tell everybody, I want to say, hi, my name is Mike, and I'm a Snyderholic. Everybody, that's what you say. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi,
No,
Mike.
everybody. Hi,
Hi,
my
Mike.
name is Mike. No, not like, well, kind of like that. Okay. And my life became unmanageable, and that's why I'm here at today's meeting, because I'm in recovery. Thank you.
Okay, actually it drops in 3 hours, I guess. There you go. Somebody would have to pay me a lot to sit through that damn thing. DCB Titan sends in a Canadian $20. Thank you so much for that. That's like worth what? $3 here? No, I'm just kidding. It's worth close to $20. Hi, Mexican Iron Mom. You should be proud of what your boy has accomplished. Yes, she should.
Aw.
And Mikey, don't worry. We won't discuss the jumping out of married women's windows in front of your. Oh shit.
Bro, she's watching this on the screen. She can read it for herself downstairs. Literally, she's watching this on a 72-inch TV.
I should have pre-read this, Mike. I'm sorry. So we have to behave tonight, just so you guys know.
No, you don't. Are you kidding? My mom told me a day, she's like, Mijo, your mouth has gotten a bit dirtier since last I saw you. I was like, what?
She can blame it on Tom. Tom's got a dirty mouth.
She told me to say hi to you specifically.
And I learned all the swear words from Jay.
She calls you Mijo Tom now.
Aw. I have
Mijo.
talked to her on the phone a couple times.
Yeah, Mijo means like my son. She calls you Mijo Tom.
I actually know what that word means.
Yeah.
Or at least I know the sentiment. Jay has nothing to say about that, evidently. So, but let's ask Price real quick before we get too far into this. What did you think of Aqua Turd?
Well, I went in there thinking that this would be the worst movie ever. I was thinking of like the Marvels, of these kind of unwatchable movies that would be complete failures. And as much as that's what I thought going into it, when I watched it, I thought to myself, it's not a fantastic movie. It's not one that I'm probably going to think about again, but it wasn't the worst thing that I'd ever seen. I think that James Wan, even movies that I've seen of his, other ones, he's competent enough to conjure something together that you could just sit there and watch some mindless thing for a few hours and leave. It's not going to leave much of an impression, but it wasn't a complete disaster. It wasn't the worst movie I'd ever seen. It just wasn't a especially good one.
Well, I mean, going in with such low expectations, I still wouldn't call that a glowing review at the same time.
No, I mean, it's not like I'm going to tell people, stop what you're doing, run to the theater to watch this. This isn't Godzilla -1. This is just like, if you're if you're now in a multiplex as we speak, and you're stuck there, and you've already seen the other movies there, like Godzilla -1, and somebody is forcing you to go inside and to see a movie.
I see what Lance did here.
And
if
you
you
can't
see
get
this,
tickets for Godzilla's -1 again.
right, you can't get Godzilla
Yeah.
-1 again, and you have no choice, and somehow somebody tricked you and you ended up watching this, then you'll be able to sit, watch it for 2 hours, then probably never think about it again. But
Honestly, if you insist on watching this, I just buy tickets for Godzilla -1 just so you don't give this money. No, I'm just kidding. Like this thing, look, at the end of the day, this is just kind of sweeping this movie out there just to kind of. It is a sad ending to the Snyder / DC universe, whatever the fuck you want to call it anymore.
Thank
It
God
never
you
had
don't
an
call it
official name.
DCEU, because that annoys the shit out of me, because there is no
And
EU.
script.
Because it never existed. I mean,
There
it's
was never a
sad.
DCEU.
That's right. It never existed. It was made as a joke to mock the failures of those DC films that were coming out at the time. Because again, it came in with a loud tantrum, and it's going out with a whimper.
A much very quiet whimper, we should say.
And if I can add one comment, it didn't feel heavy-handed in the preachy sense. The most preachy thing that I felt happened there was talking about climate change in a few parts, or implying that there's something wrong with the climate or whatever. But that's kind of the usual eye roll stuff that I expect from Hollywood. It wasn't overly leaning on heavy-handed agenda, in my opinion, which it doesn't mean that a movie is going to be good because it's not filled with agenda. But at least if you somehow have to watch it, then maybe it's a more pleasant experience.
I guess. Well, you saw it, so we don't have to, and it doesn't sound like anybody's going to see this movie. Frankly, we'll see how it rolls in the morning with the box office, but yeah, we got a couple super chats here while we were discussing that, or at least one, I should say. Tiger Valley sends in 35 South African rands. Well, thank you so much for that. It says, missed you, gentlemen. Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate that, and good to see you again. Life's been busy and will continue to be busy. We'll try to catch as many shows as I can. No guarantee. Also, Merry Christmas. Well, 'tis the season, and Merry Christmas to you as well, Tiger Valley, from all of us here. Thank you for being here and for the support, as always. And yes, I think we should have an Elf watch party. What do you say, guys? Surprise, surprise, Mikey. That's what we're doing tonight. We're watching the two-part Christmas episode of Elf.
Okay, so whoever organizes that, I just want to say that it's really a shame how the IRS might randomly audit people. I mean, you don't know, you don't know who's going to get targeted or when. It's like this accidentally happened.
You're lucky.
They're armed now, so yeah, you really don't want them after you.
And I don't know if you know anybody on the Midnight's Edge After Dark team that might have connects there. Let us think out loud.
You're lucky. I love you, and you handle my life.
You handle my life. Thomas, it wasn't for you. It was literally Tom Connors that literally. I wasn't joking on Twitter today. Literally, but you first, and then later script helped me realize the error of my Snyderverse ways. Yep.
Well, look, it's cool to like it and all. It's just this incessant need to just shove it down people's throats.
No, I was an absolute asshole, a delusional dickhead back when I was a Snyder bro.
And I mean, you're probably,
but at least I'm aware of it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, some people are, and I've had some conversations with a few. What would you call it? Stable-minded Snyder fans.
Am I on that list?
They just, well, yeah. For the most part, until you start your shit, and then I want to just smack you. But because you're not helping. But anyway, enough of that shit. Let's talk about Warner. Because last week it came out that Warner Brothers was supposedly on the verge of bankruptcy. Like, holy shit, good God, Gertie.
I read that report. I thought this accountant who did this, it's not very good.
I was curious if Mike got a chance to look at that. Yeah, because as an accountant,
read what? No one sent it to me. What am I supposed to read?
Oh, well, there was this report that was claiming that Warner Brothers was on the verge of bankruptcy, and Script Doctor said that last week, and I had heard similar things from a couple folks in my circles.
I'll give you the cliff notes, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, some auditing team just reviewed 2023. Fiscal 2023 for Warner Brothers, and from that determination alone said that they're on the verge of bankruptcy. They did not do any calculations or references to 2022, 2021, or 2020, And they paid no attention to the fact that Warner Brothers had decreased their debt over the course of those years since Zaslav took over. But instead, they just looked at, well, they had Barbie as a success, but they had all these other failures, and they had to write off Batgirl. And essentially that's the reason why we think they're on the verge of bankruptcy and are not going to be able to recover.
All right, let me see. Who said? Where do I find this?
Well, it's been a week away. So
Financial
here's
analyst.
a version of it. I'll send it to, so you
Oh,
might
I found
a
it.
better version. Okay, never mind. You probably found a better version. So go ahead and check into that for a few minutes. But the funny thing is because this is where I actually was starting to get told from more than one source, because I had heard from one of my sources who is a really reliable source on the Paramount side of things when it came to Yellowstone and some recent Star Trek stuff and the Ninja Turtle stuff before and a few other things that were related to Paramount. He was telling me a few things kind of related to this about how supposedly Warner Brothers was sniffing around CBS for the sports. And then I don't know if what script is heard, but then kind of similar things to that effect that, Warner Brothers is sniffing around Paramount / CBS, more so CBS. That's what I kept hearing.
That's what I heard too. From my side.
But at the end of the day, Sherry Redstone wants the fuck out. At the end of the day, that's what's really boiled down to. And then in the midst of all this stuff, yesterday, David Zaslav himself drops the news that yes, they're in talks. He has talked to Sherry himself. So to me, that's putting this. There's two sides to this. This is where my theory comes into this, and we'll get into this as we get going. But there's two sides to that story. I think one of them could be he's either trying to ploy. Paramount might be trying to ploy for Skydance to get a better deal out of them, or this is serious, and this could be the merger that we see next here going forward. So with that being said, Mikey, have you had a chance to look at this analyst stuff before we go too far forward into the?
Yeah, I'm on page 2 already, and I'm starting page. This guy's a fucking moron. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. My analysis is coming to a conclusion that differs from the report in front of me. Wait, am I on Midnight Sage or Midnight Sage After Dark?
After dark.
All right, this guy's a fucking moron. All right, first of all, the claim that it says this company reveal lost $300 to $500 million in 2023 because of the SAG-AFTRA strikes. Disney loses that in a month. Number one. Number two, this firm, first of all, is not an accounting firm or an audit firm. They're financial analysis, and they basically are using this plug and play module where you punch in ratios online and it kicks out.
Are they like the TurboTax of analysis, according to
Bro? No, not even TurboTax. It would be like trying to write software using let me think, a Commodore 64.
It would be like the Republic of Congo's version of H&R Block.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's like TurboTax too, yeah, kind of.
This guy's a moron. This company.
So.
Did people actually run with this and make videos on YouTube about it?
Yes, they did. Yeah. And I tried to warn some folks too. I'm like, not
any of our friends, I hope.
I'm not going to say any names. I'm just going to say that I did try to warn people that this might not be as accurate as.
No, it's not. It's completely. It's literally.
It's a narrow selection of a fiscal year as opposed to the overall life of the company since new leadership, because that's usually how audits kind of work. And when you deal with studios.
Let's be even more blunt, Script. I notice how, like, even if they were going to do this, you know who really deserves that is freaking one of the two Paramount stocks that are out there floating at garbage rates.
Right.
Because here's the thing,
I think
Paramount and CBS are in much worse shape than Warner Brothers.
Something like this getting released at the same time Disney's getting slammed, I think this is very odd to me as an investor and as an accountant.
It's funny you say that, Mikey, because I think that's part of the reason why that report came out. Was to kind of deflect and it could even have been somebody. Look, here's another side of this, and this is getting into the merger talk. Maybe somebody over at Skydance got wind that Warner Brothers was nosing around and David was getting cozy with Sherry. Who's to say they didn't try to plant this out there to make it look like Warner's in pretty bad shape? Because this is what, at the end of the day, this is basically Warner Discovery bailing Paramount out. It really is what it is going to be. But
that's the framework. But I think this is really just to run up the price of Paramount to Skydance. I think this is a Comcast.
I think you're possible. Go ahead and give me your because I kind of had a similar kind of theory to that. Like, I wonder if there isn't some shenanigans in the background with Skydance. Go ahead and. Tell me what
Okay,
you've
so
heard.
the basic parameters you'd have to know, and you learn this when you've been in the industry, at least over a couple of years, is that since Disney purchased Fox, the courts for antitrust have actually really regretted this decision, and they can't roll it back. And so they've been very stingy when it comes to these types of presentations. However, that does not prevent each one of those studios from selling off assets or IPs to other studios, because right now they are very worried that the bigger production houses and studios in Hollywood are shrinking in size. And when they shrink in size, that means the output is coming from a centralized area, which means you're going to have a superficial monopoly. But even a superficial monopoly is very dangerous to have in a capitalistic society such as North America. So the courts are going to be very apprehensive about this. Two, I don't think Paramount nor Warner Brothers Discovery has enough liquid cash in their coffers to pull off a bribe that would allow this merger to pass. Three, Warner Brothers has and Paramount have had deals before. One of them being UPN, Warner Brothers, and the CW. They had a shared network, a more prestigious cable network that did okay, which they recently offloaded for free, along with some debt, to a third party. One thing that Warner Brothers that I've been hearing wants is they want a network, but they don't want to build their own network anymore. They have CNN, which is a cable network that Zaslav has been having difficulty getting back into shape because there's a lot of rot right down to the core in that network. But he would like something where he could actually synergize Warner Brothers' massive amount of television production that they still maintain as a dominant producer of TV, and have a default home that you can find most Warner Brothers shows on CBS. That is the rumor. I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off.
I was going to ask, isn't already CBS probably the number one buyer of Warner Brothers shows? I got to imagine.
They're already kind of there. NBC is, I think, number 2, and ABC is number 3. So a lot of Warner Brothers shows, Warner Brothers just
because
produces
aren't
a lot
all
of
the
shows. Yeah,
because I know like obviously Big Bang Theory and the Sheldon Show, but like who owns CSI? Is that all CBS or is that
I believe that
Warner
is
Brothers
technically all
too?
CB. Oh,
Okay,
that's a good one. It depends on,
I
again,
was trying to remember.
I have to
Yeah,
clarify between, because I do get them mixed up between CSI and NCIS and all those.
NCIS is Paramount and CBS.
Yeah,
okay,
NCIS
that
is
one
definitely
is
Paramount and
okay.
CBS.
They're saying CBS in the chat. Okay, I was just curious because
So
I know there
CBS,
was
good, thank you.
some of their bigger shows were Warner Brothers, but yeah.
So ideally they would like that, but they probably can't get that, which is why there's only been stronger confirmations that they want sports. And I think that's kind of just them dipping their toes into the idea. The other aspect is that Warner Brothers has no interest really in any of the IPs that Paramount owns as a studio, and even for CBS as a studio. They're not concerned about getting sci-fi because they've got Dune and they've got some other IPs. As maybe they'd want to get Ninja Turtles back and put that all under their new line.
SpongeBob, I could see him wanting more than anything, probably.
And for kids, SpongeBob, yeah. But they would entertain those individually as opposed to buying the whole kit and caboodle. I think what's happening here is that, and because David Zaslav comes from TV, and Warner Brothers doesn't really have a TV wing. The closest thing they've got is their Max, their streaming service, and HBO. So I think what he wants to do is he wants to corner in on the network. He sees that network viewership is declining a little bit, but he also sees it as an advertising mechanism for the streaming service. And what you've probably been noticing and what you guys have been reporting on over the last few weeks is Warner Brothers has been licensing out a lot of their content to Tubi.
Well,
and
just all across the board to everybody, but yeah.
Yeah, and they're doing that primarily because some of those third-party streaming services have great market share internationally, and they're gearing up to do a bigger international push for what is now Max, HBO Max, and such.
Not only that, it's money in their coffers too.
It's reliable money in their coffers, but it's also a good fishing point because here's the thing that they can do is they can debut all their old back catalog shows, whether it's DC related or Game of Thrones or what have you. But in part of how they debut that, they put in a cryon or a lead-in ad that says, get the latest season now on HBO Max. You're watching it free on Tubi, but you can watch the latest season now on HBO Max. So once you finish binge watching and catching up, they're trying to incentivize you to go over, subscribe to HBO Max so you can watch the current stuff. and that's their end goal.
And we
that,
had talked about that before. I can't remember if it was on
Yeah.
here or the morning show, but yeah, like the fishing thing.
and
And
that's what they wanted. That's what they're wanting to do. I think what's happening here is that Shari Redstone and David Zaslav, which I don't think have too much of a history together, but I could be wrong there. So if anyone knows
I have
those
no
details,
idea.
please correct me. But I think they're kind of working so that CBS will sell a couple of assets to Warner Brothers that they could use, and the rest would go ideally to Skydance for a cost slightly above premium so that Shari can get out, and that essentially Tom Cruise would be the owner of Paramount.
That'd be an interesting scenario. I'm not so sure because the fact is that Zaslav mentioned Paramount now. That's the thing that kind of changed this for me.
I just think that's just to compete with the
I-
idea of them, and also throw a wrench in Backish's rumors about acquiring Warner Brothers.
If they want this deal to go through, they should not talk about it as a merger. They should talk about it as a purchase of various IPs selectively.
Yeah, I
see,
think
that's
they're
where
doing
I'm kind of wondering here is for them. You see, here's where I think Zaslav's coming into this because he could soak up both Paramount and CBS at the same time. Like you just said, they actually have a network now. So
Mhm.
they're a big boy. They're a player now up against the rest. And here's the thing with Paramount Plus. Out of all the stuff I've been reading and seeing lately, Paramount Plus, aside, because basically the streaming wars are over, guys. They're pretty much over. They've already kind of determined who the winners and losers are. And you'll see a lot of conglomerations and a lot of these things closing down over the next few years. And Paramount Plus is kind of the last wild card because it's doing better than they had first figured it would. And I think they had made some moves that helped, along with some programming that helped, because they're one of the few that are still shoving out a lot of original programming.
And they were one of the few that, in a recent audit, where it was basically confirmed that if they maintain their current output, they will actually see a profit before fiscal year 2027.
And that's what I'm referring to. So what I think Zaslav sees here is these guys are their main competition. So what better way than to just eliminate the competition? And look, at the end of the day, there's a few things that would synergize here. There's a few things that would clear up some other issues they're having, like with South Park and a few other things.
South Park,
now,
Ninja Turtles, SpongeBob, a couple.
Well, they're in court right now over South Park.
Yeah,
that's the big. So like that's what I'm saying. Like, so there's some things here that would clear up. And again, I've heard like Star Trek and a few other things are going to get spun off. So it gets even more complicated than that. So this might not even include certain things and aspects. And I wonder how much of the cable channels HBO's or Max is even going to be that interested in. Because the sports thing I can see both for the network side of things, if they want to grab a network like CBS just to secure all that. Mm-hmm. Plus, HBO used to be one of the biggest homes for premium sports. And that has kind of fallen off over the years, I feel like. So maybe that's another thing that Zaslav is trying to get back to, is this idea that, this is the place for premium sports. So I want to get everybody else's feeling on this before we go back to Mike too. But I think those things are big deals in this. And the catalog, that if you add Paramount's television catalog to Warner Brothers television catalog, there's no competition there.
Which is also one of the red flags that would prevent an antitrust
that I can
court
see
from allowing a merger to happen of that.
And
nature.
there are some issues here, so I'm curious how it's going to play out in the court side of things, and that's where I wonder where Mikey will come in with his talks about the merger as opposed to an outright sale of certain assets. But CC, you've been real quiet. Let's get your take on this, and then Price, and then we'll come back to Mike.
A lot of this is right over my head, so I'm quiet because I'm listening and trying to absorb it. I don't really have any comment, but to just listen and learn.
Yeah, and Jed asked right now, is there any sports on Max? Not that I know of offhand.
They used to have boxing way
They
back
used to
in
have
the day.
boxing all the time on HBO.
Yeah.
And certain other
Twice
things.
a week.
Yeah. But anyway, so CC, I understand, man. Because I'm kind of I understand certain things in and out, but the numbers and certain things are way over my head. But Price, what's your take on all this if you have one?
I think that, first of all, it doesn't seem completely unlikely that there would be some type of merger, and I think we're going to see other mergers like this. Yeah, you were saying that the streaming wars are over and people know who the winners and losers are. And I think that at this point, people know that it's a money loser. So it's better to kind of create a few options rather than having so many of them, which never made sense to begin with. So I think that whether it's Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount or some other groups that'll merge, I don't think that this is the last merger talk that we'll see. And I think this one has a viable chance of doing something. And I don't know, Zaslav is good at all these kind of merger stuffs. He did that with Warner Brothers and Discovery, and I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up that this goes through as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see because he does have some powerful friends. So, Mikey, after all this talk from Script and I, and going through what you have in that analyst thing, and just kind
Well,
of what you know so far of this merger and Skydance being involved, what's your take of this overall?
okay, so I have rapid fire thoughts. And this is not a priority order. One goes back to what me and Script were saying earlier, that if they actually want a deal to go through, they need to not position this as a merger, because the more it talks of a merger of two media conglomerates, however we want to look at those institutions, those conglomerates, the more that there's going to be anti-competitiveness, trade issues involved, and that's the deal killer. So the more that it's played out to that, the less likelihood that it'll actually happen, and that's how it's been played out. Now, sometimes when these things are played out like that, they're done that way because what they really want to do is say, well, we're going to merge. But in reality, there isn't going to be a merger because they know they can't do a merger because of all the intricacies. So what they do is, like, they use that big talk in order to kind of almost sniper get the asset they really want, or assets they really want to pick apart to go and get a deal done with, whether it's a purchase or licensing agreement or all that. So that's something to be aware of. So that's thought number one. Thought number two is that it's just what I said before. There's no chance that Warner Brothers is going bankrupt anytime soon. I shouldn't say no company. Few companies have made as much progress on a balance sheet to course correct themselves from being sick as a dog financially to getting on the way to financial health. What Zaslav walked into cannot be understated. He literally walked into a situation where the company is making no money, did not have anything on the dock that was really making a lot of money. By the same token, he was saddled out with he basically walked into a house that had a mortgage, a second mortgage, and a line of credit, a HELOC on top of that second. So it had three mortgages, and everybody was kind of unemployed. There's basically one or two people in the family of five making money, and the other three were
Plus, you had another 12 people living in the house per room.
exactly.
And the house had been burned down and has just been
No roof.
fires
Yeah.
been put out.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
smoldering.
Yeah. Script is right, literally from a
Oh,
financial
yeah.
standpoint. Both of you are right on that.
Well, and that's what I tried telling people what Zaslav was walking into. People just didn't understand when I tried to explain to them that for the last 20 years, basically, almost the better part of, this company has ran like children. And they
Yeah.
have had zero accountability to each other. They've spent money like it was going out of business.
Do you remember that one
And
live stream where me, you, and Script were here with other people, and Script started talking about all the VPs, and I brought up the org chart it was on Midnight Sage After Dark.
Yeah.
Yep.
Counted, like, remember that Script? They're like
Yep.
something like 33 of them or something dumb.
Yep.
So that's my second thought. About the BK financial angle. And the
but
third
yeah, no,
thing,
like that was sorry, I was just saying, like, yeah, Zaslav inherited one of the biggest
and
messes
he's
in
made
history.
so much progress. And then the third thing I'll throw out there is this, which is that when companies don't know what to do with themselves, and I'm going to say Warner is one of those companies. Like, they have these great IPs. Look, there's a reason why I've been joking for 2 years that I want to take Script to Hollywood and just leave them parked in front of Warner Brothers and Paramount, two of the studios I want them to fix, right? So I think you've got a situation where the executive teams of both institutions, whether it's Paramount with their Star Trek and others, and similar situation with Warner Brothers with how poorly they manage these DC properties. A lot of times what happens is that when people don't know what to do, they default to, like, well, look, since we don't know since we don't know how to creatively take this company in the direction that it needs to go and make money and be committed to that for the long term, we take the easy way out and we start making deals in order to create excitement, hopefully pick up a stock price ticker or two. And what they do is they run to debt money in order to prop up things, that because they're not doing the hard work. It's kind of like going back to the house analogy that you and Script were using. It's like, let's go to Home Depot, let's pick up a hammer, let's buy some plywood, and let's start fixing this thing up. But instead, they want to go get another mortgage so that they can make the next car payment.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard some. Here's the thing: a lot, and I'm not trying to. I might piss off one of my sources saying some of the shit if they're listening, but look, even from one of my sources, let's say, I'm just going to say one. I'll single one out per se. They're in the same group of people in Hollywood that have major ass Zasloff derangement syndrome, basically.
Mm.
Like these people treat him like he is Trump. And I remember I said that, and I couldn't believe I saw it in the one of the quotes in one of the things once too, where they said that this guy's playing Hollywood mogul. It's like this guy's been in the business for years. Like or hate some of the things he's done. I don't agree with everything he's done. But one thing I'll give him credit for is he is not afraid to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, we need to start all over and try this again.
Yeah.
Right. He is not above admitting some kind of failure going, yep, we can do it better.
He's a
I mean,
shrewd
look,
businessman.
Yes, very shrewd.
Wasn't happy about the Looney Tunes movie, but I got to applaud as an executive. The fact that he doesn't really know any better at least shows me that he's learning some lessons, because at some level there was some part of him that says, okay, you know what? We haven't had a lot of box office successes. I don't want to put something out there that's not going to make money, so let's just kill it. I mean, do I think that's the right decision? Absolutely not, creatively. But from a fiscal standpoint, as an executive with a guy who settled down, who's literally like saved $5 billion in operating expenses and cut the balance sheet debt down, I get where he's coming from. I get it.
Yeah. But you know what he did do? He created a bit of I mean, whether it was intentional.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, whether it was intentional or not, he created a bidding war for that Looney Tunes movie you just mentioned, Mike.
Yeah.
So now there's still talks between Amazon and a few other studios of who's going to pick this thing up if it's going to get picked up. So that's already like inadvertently created a bidding war. And that's just it. I mean, he's looking at it as a shrewd businessman. Whether it's going to destroy the image of whatever property they're working on at that point, or if it's just financially, he don't think they're going to be able to get the money back for it. I mean, that's kind of what he was looking at with this Looney Tunes movie, and or was trying to appease the new animation director over there. Because at the end of the day, like, he's allowed a lot of these guys to take these things elsewhere. And have you noticed that only a few of them have been picked up? So that tells me a lot more about these projects than, the other side of it, where people are claiming like, oh, he's just trying to stifle art. That's the reaction a lot of these fuckers are having.
No, he is data mining, because he did the one thing that he could pull off with Batgirl by doing the write-off. And he paid close attention to the backlash of that. And he now knows that if there's something out there that looks like he doesn't think it's going to make money, he can just do a public cancellation of it, and that will do more to gain interest into whether or not it was viable. And the only thing he has to worry about is either being, admitting wrong and then deciding to release the product, which he wins anyways, or he gets a bidding war on the product for distribution from somewhere else, where when that movie comes out, it's still going to have the Warner Brothers logo on it, but it's going to say it was distributed by Amazon or what have you, in which case people are still going to come back to Warner Brothers to watch other movies. And he wins either way. And if that ends up being his plan, that's 4D chess. That is brilliant.
Plus he gets to smell. Plus he gets to sell the video.
Plus he gets to sell the video and other ancillary distribution, and also merchandise. Warner Brothers is never giving up their merchandising rights on any of their IPs.
No.
So any type of Roadrunner and Coyote merch that is going to be put into production after that movie releases, Warner Brothers is seeing all the profit from that.
What were you saying, CC?
I was saying, if this merger takes place in some capacity, is Zaslav going to have control over Paramount properties, or is it vice versa, or does it? It's a bit of a layman's question, but
no, it's a great question. Actually, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this merger actually goes through. Your answer is yes. Zaslav then would take control of Paramount and CBS, basically the same way he did with Warner Brothers after Discovery was merged with Warner Brothers. So it'd basically be like
including Star Trek.
Yep.
Here's the funny thing, though, that Star Trek, I keep hearing, is a redheaded stepchild right now. So take this all with a grain of salt. We've been trying to put a video together for months now, but the news keeps changing so goddamn quickly behind the scenes. I've been told by a couple people now that the problem with Star Trek is Kurtzman and Secret Hideout actually have a financial stake in Star Trek. Right. And CBS in turn also has a financial stake in Secret Hideout. So there's this is like a snake feeding on its own tail kind of thing. If that makes sense. Like it's
under that part. Yes. Keep going.
yes. So what you have here is a situation now. I've been hearing rumors that Kurtzman was jumping ship to Amazon. And in that, he was going to sacrifice basically Secret Hideout to CBS. They were going to dissolve it. And then that way they could move Star Trek back over to CBS because they were already trying to set Paramount up for sale. But there were certain properties, just like they did with separation before, that they were going to try and reserve over at CBS. And then the rest would go with Paramount. Now, the latest rumor, though, is that Kurtzman might just fucking buy Star Trek flat out.
Oh.
And that again would
Well.
he would probably take it with him over to Amazon or something. Who fucking knows? But all I know is that might take Star Trek off the table. And I think, Script, you mentioned it earlier. I don't really think Warner Brothers gives two fucks about Star Trek. They give a shit a hell of a lot more about things like SpongeBob, Ninja Turtles, any of the stuff that's on Nickelodeon that they own. This would clear up their fucking Comedy Central problems. Is there any problems with Cartoon Network, or is that all theirs? I think that's all theirs.
And
Okay.
they Warner Brothers recently got the rights back to a bunch of their Hulu programs too. Recently with the
And this also might allow them to sell out completely of CW, wouldn't it, Mike? I don't know, because that's the thing. Don't they still own a small? Well, don't they still own a small portion of them and Paramount? That's the problem. Because that's something else somebody told me about.
No, that is all gone. The only thing that
okay, they dissolved all that. Okay,
they only have a contract for anything that the CW has not officially canceled that was produced by either original owner. So Paramount and Warner Brothers, they've got I think a show on CW that's wrapping up this season, and they've got Superman and Lois that's wrapping up this season, and that's it.
Well, and that's just a show. That doesn't mean shit. I'm talking about actually ownership. And because if that's the case, then that opens the door completely for CBS not probably being a problem. Paramount is the problem.
Those are completely dissolved. Now, one thing that I've learned, I mentioned this to you, Tom, but it's been really hard to sort out. But the way a lot of people at Paramount are looking at the Star Trek IP is they're looking at the Desilu Star Trek and the Kurtzman Star Trek. And the reason that they're separating it like that is because Desilu was absorbed by what was now Paramount, and they've got all the stuff through CBS and them. And the Star Trek license that we've been watching is technically a generated new license under a new IP,
right?
But it has access to the Desilu Star Trek to use at their own discretion. But the caveat to that is the stuff that is used from the Desilu stuff, any merchandising or any type of advertising rights to it, doesn't go to Secret Hideout. It goes to the Desilu version.
And this is where things get complicated because, all of a sudden here this last week, Playmates dropped Star Trek, which is really strange.
They dropped Star Trek probably because they realized that they were they were not getting the residuals back in the deal that they thought, because a bunch of the stuff that they were also producing wasn't just the original Star Trek, the Desilu Star Trek, which I'll call it for now. It's the Kurtzman stuff, and the Kurtzman stuff wasn't selling.
I think it's either that or some deal's about to go down. That's what I was inferring. But it could be one of both.
I think that's the reason why they didn't fight for it.
Yeah.
Because it's not making money, and maybe there might be a deal going down. Because Secret Hideout and Bad Robot have little bits of stake in the newer Star Trek license.
It's not the old stuff. As of now,
it's not the old stuff. And the weirdest thing is that if there is a sale of Star Trek, I think it'll have to go under review in the courts because the rights are so mixed up, and you've literally got two intellectual properties with the same name but have different definitions of each other, and have different cutoff points.
And this is where I'm wondering if maybe that Playmates eliminated their deal and there's something going on behind the scenes, and that's where maybe the easiest thing would be for Kurtzman to just buy it. I hate to fucking say that, but I think he's part of the complication of the problem.
I suspect that if he ends up buying out the current Star Trek stuff, he will still be owing Paramount money anytime he were to use original Star Trek characters prior to the existence of the Bad Robot Secret Hideout deal. I think that's going to be unseparable, undivorceable.
I was wondering about that because of my impression was there was always a separation between Paramount Star Trek and CBS Star Trek.
There is, but that line has gotten blurred quite a bit since Kurtzman.
Because essentially, Secret Hideout is licensing out the Desilu Trek to use in their own stuff if they so want to. And that's what makes things even more complicated, because there've been so many of those little micro deals happening since essentially 2009. It's causing a lot of headaches over at CBS. I think that there's credence to Kurtzman buying out Star Trek. I also think there's credence to Kurtzman selling his stake in Star Trek, hopping over to Amazon, and then just kind of absorbing everything and then keeping it back under one original license again, because
And
the
that's
whole
what I
quote
think could be
unquote
the other option.
25% different stuff has been a nightmare for Paramount. It really has. Like they don't know what the
And
heck's
I've
going
heard
on.
both versions script, and that's where
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going to happen. I've heard, because at first it was what you just said, the last thing, that
Yeah.
he was going to jump ship. They were going to dissolve Secret Hideout into CBS, since there was so many connections there, buy out probably Kurtzman in the background, and then he would just leave and go do his thing over at Amazon, which I hate to tell you folks is not just Magnificent Seven. I've also heard he's been poking around Stargate. But that being said, the other thing, and then this just came in this last week here, and this is what all kind of the timing of it's funky is. Yeah, that's when I'm all of a sudden hearing, oh, he might just buy it all outright. I'm like, well, fuck. That's
the funny
not good
thing
for
is
us.
that the outright buyout would come from money that he has made from CBS over the years, dating back to his Hawaii 5-0 deal, as well as the more recent money that he's made in the last 9 years off the Star Trek shit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the funny part. And they're literally, imagine being the guy who has been a leech and a viper and has sucked money out of CBS Paramount, and then is using that money to take away something that he never liked, never knew what to do with.
It's like when your employee buys you out, right?
Yeah, it's like, I'm your employee, Tom, and I'm buying you out with all of your super chats from the last 9 years
that I've earned instead of you. Yeah.
I'm buying everybody. Mexican Iron Man's buying out Andre and Tom with their own super chats.
That's basically what Kurtzman's doing here, if that's the case.
If he actually has that liquidity, that's the other part too.
Yeah.
We don't know. There are rumors that some of the deals that Kurtzman has made, where he was making a bunch of money, he's had to sort of balance the budgets from his own paychecks, because certain third parties for distribution, like for instance Netflix, backed out of their deal and they didn't front any more costs for that show, and it didn't technically come from CBS. And rumors are saying that it came from Secret Hideout to make up for some of the costs. And that's something that's interesting, because I don't know how much money Kurtzman has been actually stashing away to do that deal. And I also don't know if, when you take a look at his production company's ratio of investment to return, he's going to get the line of credits that he'll need in order to purchase the IP outright.
Yeah.
Is there a scenario by which the Desilu, like the classic merchandising profits, are allocated to one company or person, and
they're still allocated?
Star Trek is,
as far as we understand, they're all going straight to Paramount.
They're still allocated. All of the stuff, all the DVDs, all the Blu-rays of the original series, those movies, all that goes to Paramount. Secret Hideout, Bad Robot doesn't get a cent of that. The feature films 2009 and television series up to this point, a sizable portion of that goes to Secret Hideout, and then a residual goes to Paramount CBS. Now, I don't know what's actually going to happen with these talks between Warner Brothers and Paramount, but I will say the most ideal situation would be this. Warner Brothers gets CBS and a couple of IPs. Paramount is sold to Skydance, and basically Paramount will be a Skydance company, like we used to be Paramount, a Gulf Investment Company. That would be the ideal, because Tom Cruise is not getting. Tom Cruise needs to have CBS and Paramount stay together, because Mission Impossible has not been separated between CBS and Paramount. They're still linked heavily.
That's another one of the franchises that has a problem.
And it's in his best interest that Paramount doesn't split up. So what he would end up doing is he would buy the CBS rights from Mission Impossible before CBS goes to Warner Brothers, so that he can retain it and keep it at Paramount. And he would probably end up doing the same thing for Star Trek as well, because again, that's also has a Desilu origins to it. And there's a handful of other IPs that Paramount has that they got with the acquisition of Desilu that they want to keep there for either future television or future feature films. And what you end up would have is kind of the flip. Instead of Warner Brothers producing, say, a Mission Impossible TV series, you then have Paramount producing for Warner Brothers' CBS a Mission Impossible TV series. And that's how you kind of keep things a little cleaner. but it's really going to be a hard deal to sell. I think because so many of the trades after that one lonesome, almost nobody reporter talked about the merger, all of them were able to confirm it from their own individual sources. This tells me that this is strategically leaked out by Zaslav and co. at Paramount because they want people to talk about this type of deal so that you get the blowback and allows them, as Mike said, for each one to surgically take what they want out of each other that can benefit later to maybe a third party sale, ideally Skydance and I think it's Redbird, or are the companies that are looking to share ownership of Paramount in the near future.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it also depends on how interested Tom Cruise and some of the people at Skydance are. I get where you're coming from, Script, like using Paramount as their own studio, ostensibly making Skydance a studio then.
Well, it would be using
Distribution and
Paramount
all
as
that
their
stuff, yeah.
distribution house because it's a
Yeah.
legacy company,
Yeah.
and they're never going to get rid of that name. And if that does dissolve, that's going to hurt because that's going to have the same
Yeah.
repercussions as 20th Century Fox.
And that's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up because I've seen a lot of people get scared that that's what's going to happen here if this does. Let's just, again, going back to playing devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Let's just say Warner Brothers does merge with Paramount. I highly doubt Zaslav is dumb enough to not utilize Paramount shit the way that Disney just kind of buried Fox. That's not what he's about. He would instantly try to, synergize as much as possible. There's a lot of shit over there. I'm sure they have a lot of, in fact, there's a super chat that brings it up. A lot of reality shows and stuff, and things I'm sure he would get his hands on. Sergeant Point Blank sent in $5. Thank you. Says Ghost Adventures, Star Trek, Bar Rescue, and The Wire on one service would be strange to me. Well, again, sans Star Trek, that could very well happen. Very well happen, especially if it's the TV side of things. And I agree with Script. I think the most likelihood would be a television merger, which makes it weird that Zaslav himself at this conference mentioned Paramount, like I said. But again, I mean, what if they end up just buying like the catalog and in the CBS side of things, and then Skydance just takes the Paramount name and logo going forward? Would you see something like that too?
I could see that. I could see that happening where, well, I mean, Warner Brothers would get a sizable portion of that catalog, and the stuff that needs to be brand wise recognized with Paramount will probably stay with Paramount. And in a perfect world, that would be those two bigger franchises, which would be Mission Impossible and Star Trek. They're so intrinsically associated to that mountain that you don't really want to separate the two because it is going to throw people away. Now, to your point about the ideal situation of a Warner Brothers merger, yeah, I would think Zaslav is smart enough to not get rid of Paramount and basically have anytime there's going to be a Paramount movie, you'd have underneath, just like with Gulf and Western, or just whatever it is now, you'd say a Warner Brothers Discovery Company. And it would just be focusing mostly on that logo. And I think that would be a smart move for him if they're able to pull that off. Again, I don't think either company has the cash to afford the bribes needed for the courts to actually let that go through. I think it's better if it's more like, okay, they're taking a hammer to Paramount, and these are some of the pieces that are going to be going to Warner Brothers, and these are some of the pieces that are going to be going to Skydance. And that's just going to be how it is. And ideally, it's probably going to be something that allows them to deal with their Comedy Central issue with South Park, deal with their Ninja Turtle stuff, and deal with their Nickelodeon content, and allow Paramount to hold on to the things that they are most known for.
MTV, Nickelodeon.
I have a
MTV
question.
and probably the Yellowstone stuff and Taylor Sheridan things. I don't think Paramount wants to sell those because that's a really good moneymaker for them right now. But I can totally see Zaslav really pushing hard to get that stuff brought over to Max.
What were you going to say, Price?
Warner Brothers and Discovery, that was described as a merger, but it really was just David Zaslav taking over the whole situation. And I feel like, why would this be any different? I mean, they could also describe it as some kind of merger. And if I had to bet on a horse that I would think would be the one to take over everything, I would once again bet on him. And one thing I wanted to say that you were talking before, Tom, about Hollywood doesn't like him. That's actually something that I can talk a little bit from whatever experience I have, is that in Hollywood, reality TV is considered very kind of crap. And they never like the idea that this guy is sort of like a shrewd businessman / in their eyes, kind of like a shyster.
King of reality TV in a way. He didn't invent it, but he kind of perfected it, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right, and they look down on that. It's like they don't like that he came from a place that they consider is inferior to all their fancy cocktail parties, and he just, in their eyes, took a shortcut by making money through the crap, quote unquote. But then he took all that money and he took over Warner Brothers, and now he's like, I'm Warner Brothers, and they don't like that. I mean, they're Hollywood, in spite of all of their messaging and inclusive and all that stuff, they're very kind of condescending people. There's a lot of condescending people there, and a lot of kind of status, and a lot of this kind of phony baloney crap. And I think that for them, Zaslav represents something that they don't like in general. Yes, they can try to make him seem like a Trump, but I think that this goes also more even on how they value themselves artistically and what they consider him to be.
Zaslav is a reflection of what a lot of people in Hollywood wish they were and pretend to be. And that's the thing. It's like shrewd, creative, and successful.
He's also conservative. They hate that part too.
Probably,
there's a lot
I'm
of
sure
people in
so.
Hollywood that are conservative that
Yeah,
pretend to
but I
be liberal.
mean, yeah,
But,
I know what you mean, but I mean, like he actually just lives it. Like he doesn't pretend.
yeah, he well, I mean, the thing is that even if you take a look at a lot of the stances he's made, you'd say, wow, he's what a liberal would be defined as in 1990.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a
So-
classic in that sense.
He's a
But,
classic
like,
in that sense. At
He's a
least balanced.
family man and all that kind of stuff. And I actually have talked to somebody who kind of knows his family and stuff, and I've gotten kind of a feel for what he wants, who he is, like what he has for an outlook. And look, I respect the guy, what he's trying to do. Again, I don't agree with every fucking thing he's done. I don't.
Oh, he's
In
been
fact,
stumbling, but he's been stumbling in the right direction. That's the problem.
well, I also
That's
think
the-
he's got vipers around him. He's in a nest of fucking vipers. That's what I've been trying to say. Is like this is like you can compare it to the Trump presidency because Trump had people working behind the scenes constantly to undermine him. Same fucking thing here, maybe even worse, right? Because these people are so vindictive, and there's people that don't even have any fucking stake or anything like that into the Batwoman situation, and they're still going off about that shit. Like that is, they're treating it like it was the biggest fucking travesty in the history of Hollywood. And I was like, dude, if you think that's the first movie that ever got canceled or shit canned or fucking put on the shelf, I got a bridge to fucking sell you. Because what do you think most of the movies we saw during COVID were? They are movies that were sitting on shelves for years. This is nothing new in Hollywood as far as canceling a film. Now, I get it. It's a situation where it wasn't put on the shelf to where it could maybe get viewed later. It was completely erased and they can't show it legally. But that being said, I guarantee you, Mike, help me out here. This is probably not the first time Hollywood's done it in the last fucking history of Hollywood. But yet they act like Zaslav invented the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because there was even one take on Disney where they're trying to blame
I think
Disney
it's a
following
triangulation.
suit from him.
I think there's a triangulation. I think all three of you are right, and you're triangulating the Zaslav situation because on the one hand, it's like what script says is that he represents what they aspire to be, and then let's go to what Reason's talking about, where the resentment about oh, it's reality. Now I have a client that is has a prominent role on a reality show out on the West Coast, and I can't tell you who it is because it's confidential, but I have a client who I do his taxes, his accounting, and he has a prominent role on a prominent reality show. And when I was out in California for those 9 weeks, he and I had we met up in Orange County for late lunch, early dinner, and I asked him what it's like being because he got thrust into this. He wasn't an actor, and it's not. I mean, he was thrust into it, and it just happened. Now he's there, and he's institutionalized. But, and I asked him, and he definitely all the stuff that Reason's talking like he's treated way different. It's like a second class type of. They go to the events, but they're not paid attention to. They don't get invited to the same caliber of events. And this guy's making money, and the show makes money. The show that he's on. And then similarly, I think the politics, like Tom, we talk about the politics of Zaslow. All of this doesn't help. No one. It's odd to me that no one's rooting for Warner Brothers to be successful, yet they're trying so hard. While at the same time, Disney doesn't give a flying fuck about what they're doing and is not trying at all and is getting every break in the book.
Everybody's treating him like the retarded child who happened to actually draw something or something. It's like, Jesus Christ, come on. Why like that? When I read that, when they were like saying, oh, it was Zaslav's fault that Disney started doing it too. I'm like, wait, what?
Huh?
Wait, what? I mean, it's like literally like here you have at Warner Brothers, they're actually trying. And you know what? We knew the Flash was gonna suck, but bless you know, I remember when Zazzle was talking, I was thinking Liam Southern, bless his heart. You know, he's just like, it's gonna be great, guys. And I remember listening, like, oh, you have no idea. No, it's not. It's not gonna be great. It's not gonna do well. And, you know, the Flash. I'm like, oh, this guy has no clue. But God, but bless him. But you know, they're trying. At least they finally got a management team that's trying after all these other morons and idiots have run this thing into the ground, and they get no breaks from any quarter at all. Meanwhile, Bob Iger over here and his team of wackos are want to do all kinds of weirdo crap left and right. Now,
Right.
Warner Brothers is not free of what Elon Musk calls the woke mind virus. They certainly have a bunch of horseshit. I'm not happy at all about a scene I saw in the latest video game coming out. I'm not at all happy about some of the crap they put out on HBO Max. I don't like what they did at Scooby-Doo. You know, but if I have to, like, you know, compare, if I'm in the grocery store, you know, looking at creative offerings in the vegetable and fruit section, you know, I got a way bigger problem with the rot that I see in the Disney aisle than I do in the Warner Brothers aisle.
Well, and that's the thing. Look, is David Zaslav perfect? Fuck no. Like I said, he's made some bad choices. He's done some dumb things. He's probably listening to some of the wrong people. I mean, he's even got like Alan Horn and some other people in his ear, like people that are so way out of it right now. It's like, this is one of the guys that helped destroy Disney, and then you bring him over here. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's trying his best to make this company profitable. He's made some bad choices, but they're treating him like he's fucking Trump or something. And it's like, where do you get this shit that he is the guy who's the worst thing to ever happen to Hollywood? Like, I even seen a meme the other day too, where it was saying the same thing, like Warner Brothers and Paramount, the two worst studios in Hollywood, or now they're going to have the guy who destroyed Warner Brothers take them over. It's like, let's just totally ignore Disney.
Yeah.
Just totally ignore Disney while we're at it.
Let's ignore Ann Sarnoff. Let's ignore Walter Hamada. Let's ignore Kevin Tsujihara, Kevin Tsujihara is the reason why Warner Brothers is in this place.
Right. Well, let's not forget Toby Emmerich and shit too.
And then Toby Emmerich. I mean, Warner Brothers was incredibly lucky that they did well with the Dark Knight trilogy and Harry Potter when they did, because otherwise they would be in worse situation than they are today.
Oh, absolutely. I've made that point several times. They saved, because that's what I said. What the fuck is Toby Emmerich doing? I've said it a million times. What is he doing running this goddamn company? He has no reason or rhyme to be running this company. He was never anything over at New Line, even. And that was the biggest mistake Warner Brothers ever made in the first place, is when they conglomerated all that stuff. So anyway, that being said, let's see what you guys are talking about, because actually somebody sent me something in the background here that's kind of interesting. Because I was going to ask you guys what you think might happen to, like, say, like Showtime and the movie channel, since, you know, Max probably wouldn't, you know, Warner wouldn't be interested in that. They already got Cinemax and HBO, and I don't know if they can legally own them all.
They can't, no.
So that's what I was thinking. So, like, there's actually an article here that's kind of funny, just kind of skimming through it. It brought up some of the points you and I have, Script and Mike and so on. So we'll get into that in just a moment, but I want to grab these before they get too long in the tooth. Morgan King has been here for 28 months. Thank you for that, Morgan. We appreciate the support. AF Watcher 88 sends in $4.99, says, I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked Man of Steel, considered BVS Ultimate Edition a guilty pleasure. That being said, Superman 1 and 2 ED are still, I think it means the original ones. I don't know what ED stands for.
I think I know, but I don't know if that's what he intended.
Erectile dysfunction?
Yeah, that's the different kind of ED. Are still the gold standard. Also another possible monopoly. Ugh. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. Bass Player 2011 Iffy sends in $4.99, says, I saw a few videos about Warner possibly close to bankruptcy. I just laughed. I wonder if any of these guys work for PwC. What's PwC?
Fun fact,
Mike?
the official audit from a record for Warner Brothers Discovery is the same one as Reedy Creek, which is Ernst & Young. Fun fact.
That's interesting.
Fun fact. That's why you got me on the panel.
Well, we have you for many reasons, and one of them is your sexiness. Tim Hayes, speaking of sexy, has shaved down and got a haircut and looking all sexy too. Been a member for 26 months. Thank you for that. Sergeant Point Blank sends in $5, says, oh, we got this one already, but thank you again for the support. Glade Ribbon sends in $5, says, is it possible that they could just be merging the streaming services? Yes, this is another thing I think that's going to happen if this merger goes through with CBS and Warner Brothers. Let's say that's probably the more likely scenario. I would say that's part of the plan, and that's what I was saying before about Zaslav's looking at, like, these guys are our biggest competition right now. we got to eliminate them.
Okay, can I just I have a comment to make about this. And Mom, I know you're listening downstairs, so you're gonna laugh when I say this. So I'm gonna call out Mexican Iron Mom. This is something that just happened before we started the show. We just finished dinner and we're waiting for me, and I'm waiting for Mead to start. And I tell him I'm gonna go on the show. Watching my mom in the living room on this big ass TV, watching her navigate, trying to find something between the 1,000 free Samsung channels, the YouTube TV, and God knows how many streaming services I've connected to this thing. I literally am just like, Ma, find something. She's like, I'm trying. God bless her heart.
You know, there's
the streaming wars have created absolute chaos, so that my mom,
Mhm.
it's 30 minutes went by and she hadn't found something yet because it's not easy.
Is she
Well,
really
my
watching
mom-
this right now?
Yeah, she's downstairs. I mean, I can go get her and bring her upstairs.
My mom actually adopted streaming for the first time this year, and really all she does is find the ones that just
She's
play
just
like
trying
the
to
live
find
TV
something to
stuff.
watch while we were both in
Yeah.
the living room while I was waiting to come upstairs to the show. You know, she's just kind of, plopping around, right? Until hi, Mom. But she's probably going to yell at me when I go downstairs. But
I
yeah,
almost did a joke earlier that I stopped myself because I remembered your mom was listening.
the only thing she
That's why I
knows
kind
what
of
to-
stumbled there for a minute
Oh,
earlier.
you could say, Tom, she's heard us so many times on the show. You have no idea. She's heard everything. But the thing is, I mean, she's watching YouTube TV right now, I'm sure. Hi, Mom. But the thing is, we were waiting for the show to start before I came upstairs and just watching her try to fumble around looking for something to watch. It wasn't even channel surfing. It was literally like she accidentally shut the TV off, accidentally turned the sound system, disconnected. The streaming wars have not been good for anybody, in my
No.
opinion.
All right, I'll say my joke then, just because.
Go ahead.
Maybe I'll try and clean it up. Look, like Zaslav, I get it. He's conservative in certain ways, but he's also a businessman, right? So he may not like sucking dick, but he knows some people like sucking dick.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's going to make sure that there's people who,
Yeah.
as long as there's money to be made
Yeah.
about shows about people who like to do that. I didn't mean to be so crude. I could have probably come up with a much better version of it, but it's not as funny if you say it any other way.
All good.
But yes, yeah, I think Glade, I think that's kind of the ultimate goal to this, to be honest with you, is they would want to merge HBO Max with Paramount Plus and just kind of clean that up. Because at the end of the day, Netflix, Amazon Plus, Apple is just kind of an out there like moon, just kind of hanging around doing whatever it wants to do, and it's not really affected by any of this stuff. But those two that I just said prior to that are the two big winners, clear winners. We all knew that was going to be the case. And right now, basically, it's like Paramount Plus, Warner, HBO Max, and Disney Plus fighting for the bottom of the barrel is really where we're at right now. And if HBO were to merge with Paramount, I think that would kind of make them the more stable of the top 3 or 4 or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, moving on, we got some more super chats here. Thank you for that, Glade Ribbon. We interrupt to make to make things more irritating. I like that. Sends in $10. Happy Honda Days, or Merry Toyota-thon if you celebrate. Just kidding. Merry Christmas, Midnight and Panel. Thank you for your content. I remember when they would have the Merry Toyota-thon. Is that still going on? Thank you for the support, and I love your name. That's amazing. Joe Pat 87 sends in $4.99 and says, perfect summary of Hollywood. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. Fittingly from Warner-owned show. LOL. Well, we'll have to see how this goes. And oh my gosh, Gonzalo Bergali and Kalekioki both gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for that. That's 10 altogether. I appreciate that, guys. But I want to go back to this real quick here, because this kind of goes off of what Script and I were talking about. And somebody sent this to me in the background while we were talking. I found it kind of interesting. So Variety already put together, and this is from earlier this afternoon, it looks like, but what would Warner Brothers Discovery Paramount merger mean for cable TV? Some networks would likely be sold off. And this kind of goes with what we were all just talking about. So I thought this is probably a good place to bring us in. And then we can move off this topic altogether for those who are bored to death. But yeah, mega merger, blah, 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 blah. Analysts in the industry sources have already raised a number of questions. First piece of puzzle in any serious integration plans would be sorting out what's to be done with Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount's U.S. cable networks. Moffett-Nathanson's team of media analysts wrote in a research note Thursday after news of the merger talks broke Wednesday afternoon. We think any regulatory review of WBD Paro combo would start with Warner Brothers Discovery's domestic cable portfolio, which already accounts for a greater share of linear time viewed than that of any other company, even including broadcast networks. Warner Brothers Discovery is home to cable channels including the Food Network, Home and Garden Television, TLC, TBS, TNT, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Discovery, Animal Planet, CNN, Turner Classic Movies, True TV, ID, OWN, among others, and its co-owns Chip and Joanna Gaines' Magnolia Network.
Yep.
On the other hand, Paramount's cable assets are BET, which is said to be in talks to sell, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1, Paramount Network, CMT, along with a handful of smaller channels. Well, right there, you already kind of got a signal that they know they're going to get probably rid of this.
Yep.
Because if somebody's already interested in it. Wasn't the dude who does all the Taylor, not Taylor,
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry, wasn't he interested in it for a while or something like
As far
that?
as I know, he still is.
That might be the one who they're talking about then. So I remember hearing something about that. But anyway, yeah. A lot of these ones they mention here, I think they'll keep right here. Because right here are the ones that they'll probably want. Because another thing beyond, Comedy Central cleaning up who owns what there because of the dual ownership, Nickelodeon, which they bring up here in a little bit, so we'll get back to that. MTV, VH1, and CMT. It's a Paramount Network. Get rid of that. They don't need that. CMT, MTV, and VH1. Warner Brothers still owns their music catalog, as far as I know, right?
Yes, they're 1/3 owners of all music. I think
That's what I thought. So that's a big deal to them, probably.
Mhm.
That's a synergistic thing.
VH1 and MTV, they would like very much.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyway, according to Nielsen data and MoffettNathanson's analysis, Paramount's cable networks as a whole rank second only to Warner Brothers Discovery in linear viewing time in most quarters, and together the two companies would hold a 35% or 40% of linear television time viewed in US, a greater share than any single entity has controlled since pre-cable network era, and likely to be among the biggest sources of potential regulatory pushback. So even this could cause an issue here.
Oh yeah.
So with asterisks, this is this is all very preliminary. Sources within Warner Brothers Discovery say the likely resolution to this roadblock for a potential merger would be selling off a chunk of those Paramount, cable channels and keeping Warner Brothers Discovery's larger portfolio overseen by U.S. Networks chief Kathleen Finch. Such potential sales would also lessen the blow to Warner Brothers Discovery's existing elevated leverage. And then Warner Brothers is definitely more likely to prioritize its cable lineup, which has been using to promote parts of their company, including recent large campaigns behind Wonka, Barbie, and Aquaman, and constant plugs for their streamer Max. However, Warner Brothers Discovery would choose to keep Paramount's offerings. Paramount Network is a solid choice with those Yellowstone ratings. Well, yeah, if that's part of the deal, but that's under MTV anyway, MTV Studios. And Nickelodeon would give a serious boost to Warner Brothers Discovery's kids demo on cable. And yes, I think Nickelodeon would be a good addition to what they have already with Cartoon Network and Boomerang. But it also would, I wonder if they could even do that with a monopoly there. That's a plausibility, because then you only have PBS Kids and what's the other kids networks that are out there now to compete with them? Does Fox still have one anymore?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, that would have been Disney. So yeah, Disney, basically, yeah. That'd be Disney now. So there you go. So yeah, that might be a problem too. Could be well worth it, according to MoffettNathanson, which notes that combined cable assets plus the move into broadcast, the inclusion of CBS would produce additional cost synergies, potential revenue, advertising, affiliate fees, synergies. But if Warner Brothers Discovery is looking for the most bang for their limited bucks, MoffettNathanson suggests another target, Fox. Oh, they want to make Bob some money. That's what they want. So is this a flag that Fox might be up for sale from Disney? Because haven't we pointed that out before, that's a plausibility?
Well, not so much Fox, but a lot of many parts of Fox will probably be
many
up for
parts
sale.
of Fox. Yeah,
It's
they've
the one
been
thing
trying to
Disney
dump
could
FX
sell
and shit
that-
for a while, haven't they?
Yeah, like there's one thing that they Disney could make some not some significant gains, but some decent gains by selling off certain IPs that are still under the Fox label brand that they've been sitting on.
Good point.
Like, they could sell Predator, they could sell Aliens,
But
they'll
I still
never sell
think
Avatar. But
I still think the 20th Century logo is worth something. But you'd have to
Probably
fight
is,
to
yeah.
get the Fox name part back. If Warner Brothers Discovery were really looking to make an acquisition, especially for a broadcast network, here's where I was hearing things similar to this: NFL and other must-have sports rights, plus a leading fast service in Tubi, FanDuel option, and even a studio lot. I think Fox would be a much better fit, currency trading and discount valuation. So you're talking about Fox Network. See, now I remember I brought that.
Warner Brothers is not interested in the Fox network.
Yeah, but see, I remember I brought that up before too. That's what one thing. Remember when I said that though? That's one thing Warner Brothers doesn't have that everybody else has, and that is a network to broadcast through their streaming.
Yeah, but that's why they want the CBS part, because it's more legacy. Yeah,
absolutely. I see what you're saying there, but I did bring up Fox as a possibility just because I thought they'd be cheaper and it'd be less of a problem through the regulations. But yeah,
no, because Fox has the news network, and you've got Warner Brothers with CNN.
Oh, you'd have to dissolve it. Yeah,
interest. So yeah, that's why they would not be interested in that. They'd be interested in other properties that Fox has, but not on their TV side of things. That's why they went over to CBS. Because even the limited stuff that CBS has on cable when it comes to news, it's mostly sports, and Warner Brothers doesn't have a cable sports.
Yeah, that's true too. And who brought up CNN earlier? Because this is another thing one of my people told me was that Zaslav was looking to replace a lot of CNN folks with CBS News.
I told him that. I mentioned at the start that he's been having a difficult time getting CNN in order. Like, he's really had a hard time getting CNN back on track. If it ever was, really.
Yeah, he wants to bring. I heard he wanted to bring some dignity back to CNN. Is what I was told.
Yeah, well, I would say this. I mean, here's something that's fascinating, and I don't know who's going to do it, but if Disney wanted to at least help a little bit when it comes to their debt, they should sell the majority of what they purchased from Fox Studios, because Steve Absell, who is the head of 20th Century. Or Asbel, sorry, ahead of 20th Century. I haven't heard from him in the trades since the acquisition, which means, like, I don't know if he's doing anything really. And why would you not have a guy like him who worked his way up to be the head of the studio, just kind of, twiddling his thumbs in his office at this point? Right? So why not just sell some of the properties and sell that off to something else? Maybe another service provider, maybe like Verizon, get Richard Branson or over at Virgin to buy it or something, and have him get in the game, because that would make things a lot easier. And that also would be a good incentive if Warner Brothers and Paramount want to merge, is that, oh, wait, Fox is kind of starting up and we have another big player in the studio system again. So now the majority of content is no longer 25% among the studios. It's now 20%. Okay, that's fair. We can balance that easily. That would work out well overall for everybody.
Yeah. Well, D-Bud Martin sends in $5. Thank you for that, D-Bud. Says, does Max and Iron Mom, have any first aid tips for cuts and broken glass asking for a friend?
Wow, everybody's full of jokes upon my retirement night. Wow. Well, oddly enough, David, I'm gonna have to replay this for her, because the reason I walked away for a few minutes is because she texted me. She's downstairs and needed help with the remote. She stopped watching this after the first half hour. So
I'm not surprised. It's probably boring for her. She fell asleep otherwise.
Yeah, she's like, what is this Paramount?
I don't understand this shit. She's like, no.
Jim Henson doesn't have any tips on safety, and there's no need.
She's like, Mijo, can you just put on some talking dogs? Isn't there Christmas movies you could put on for me?
Yeah, that's exactly what she's watching right now.
Just find the Hallmark Network and she's good to go.
That's exactly what she's watching right now.
Kind of like my mom. Yep. Jim Henson sends in $5 and says, Warner Paramount merger sounds like the Sears Kmart merger from 20 years ago. I can see the comparison here, but that was completely mismanaged. Well,
Sears almost doesn't exist anymore.
No, I know. And Sears fucked up from the start. They could have been Amazon before Amazon, just like JCPenney could have been Amazon before Amazon. They already had the mail-in catalog kind of thing set up. Right?
They just doing the internet part of it. That's the problem.
That's all they had to do is combine it with the internet somehow, and they just couldn't. It's kind of like with Blockbuster and the whole. They just couldn't get their heads around it.
Well, it's the same thing with the studios and the streaming systems. All they had to do is follow the network model. They would have been sweet. They would have been in great positions. Oh, wait, I missed the show on live broadcast, but I can just go subscribe to this one for $3.99 a month and watch my stuff just like Hulu, and with ads or not ads and what have you, and not have to worry about all that stuff, and the studios wouldn't have to be spending feature film budgets on a single episode of TV. Like, my God, that's a win for everybody, but they couldn't do it. Blockbuster couldn't figure out the whole mailing in stuff. They tried changing. I think one of the dumbest ideas I heard is they wanted to give every single customer a USB fob, and so they could go online and rent a movie that way and plug it into their DVD player or Blu-ray player and watch it there within a time limit and never have to worry about returning the movie because it just auto-delete after X amount of hours. And I'm just like, that's stupid.
Yeah, but they were like, I think that was when they were trying to, I think, compete with
Netflix.
More so with, well, that was part of it. How soon was that? Because I was going to say, I think that I remember hearing about that when the red boxes first started, because I remember that whole idea thing too, and the logistics of the boxes that they had out, because that was their other thing, is they were putting out these kiosks everywhere, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, it was 2007 is when I first started hearing those ideas. But yeah, no, Blockbuster missed the boat when they could have bought Netflix and could have been Blockbuster we're watching on the streaming service instead
for cheap too.
For for pennies compared to what they're worth now.
Yeah, the story of Netflix is quite interesting. There's a biopic movie in the making, surely sooner or later about that. But anyway,
I haven't made it already.
Oh, I'm sure somebody's in the works. It's in the works somewheres. But yeah, before we go too far, this is kind of the last thing I wanted to just kind of throw a few more snowballs here at the Aquaman here, because 37% is where it seemed to settle on the tomato meter here.
It was a 39 earlier, wasn't it?
It's bounced around between, I think 33 was a low it hit, and then it was like, I think 38 or 39 earlier. CC, you're right, and then it's kind of settled back down at 37. Now it's 99 reviews, it looks like here.
Just not enough tits and ass. It's a water movie. How hard is it to just
the wrong
take the
tits and
clothes
ass
off and
So Price, anything more you want to say about the film? Maybe a little more spoileries for those who've been hanging around, if just in case you don't want to hear any spoilers. Here's a warning, but
all right, I'll give some info. Basically, and it's funny because I feel like I saw the first one such a long time ago, and it wasn't one that I really felt like rewatching prior. But I guess in the first movie, there's this guy who he and his father are drowning, and he kills the father or kills somebody, and he leaves him there. And then that guy is like, he's going to get revenge on him. So at least in this movie, they sort of go back to what happened to the events of the first movie. And now this guy wants his vengeance, but he somehow, he connects with this kind of evil force. I don't remember the name of it, in the ocean, that makes him even more evil and more powerful and all this other stuff. It becomes very convoluted, but I'll tell you this. Amber Heard, I thought that she'd be there a few seconds and you wouldn't see her anymore. I feel like you see more of AH than you probably want to see of her. And I could have seen less of her. That's actually one of the comments that I have against the movie. But aside from that, there's this kind of thing that the only way he can battle that guy that's come back and he wants to destroy the world and Atlantis and all this stuff is if he teams up with his brother. The one that he fought for the kingdom in the first movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one he hates his guts.
Yeah, Patrick, whatever his name is. Yeah, so he basically, the only way, it's kind of like a Thor and Loki situation where the only way he can get rid of the bad guy is that he has to go and sort of get that brother sort of out of jail and team up with him. At this point, I'll say, though, that there are a few things that Aquaman now has a son, and that this guy is sort of a brother that he doesn't get along with, and there's some stuff with his parents, that at the end, the message of him kind of, the importance of family wasn't the worst message to have. I mean, of course, the movie isn't great, and it's too long, and the CGI is too heavy, and some of it doesn't look that great, but I'll still say that it's sort of, its heart was in the right place. Considering all the reshoots and everything I heard, I thought that this would be much, much worse. It was just sort of watchable, but not great. And the other thing is that if there was any hint of Ben Affleck being in this, he's certainly not, because whatever scene they had with him, they've deleted it.
There you go. And I heard there's some bug eating and strong ESG, or the E of the ESG message, which I had been telling people after Bob Iger and a few others had said that things were going to shift that direction. I'm not surprised, but
Yes, there was the only part that I considered really preachy is that there's a few points that they explain that one of the reasons the earth is in this situation is because we didn't care about the climate or some other nonsense like that. But really when it was a few scenes when some people talked about it, and considering some of the other kind of quote unquote woke stuff, this kind of environmental things with like saving the atmosphere and the climate, I wasn't really phased by it. I mean, I'm kind of used to this kind of dumb stuff, so it wasn't too much throughout the movie, but there were a few moments that they shoved that in there. But other than that, I didn't think it was overly agenda based.
Was at least the mid credits scene funny or
No,
interesting?
that's actually what Tom was saying. I feel like they had other scenes, like a different mid-credit scene and a different ending scene. And in my opinion, because they didn't have those, they kind of did something weird where it ends on this final scene, and then you go to the credits, and suddenly mid-credits you go to the same scene that you just saw, and it continues, and then it involves eating a bug. And then the movie ends, and I was waiting until the end, thinking that maybe they'll still keep the Ben Affleck thing, or there will be like Clooney or anything. And I waited till after the credits, and I was just sitting there by myself in that theater. Not that I don't even think that there were people there to begin with, but it was just weird that I was sitting there, like the lights were coming on, and it was just by myself, and there was no end credit scene.
How many people were there in your theater?
I think that I saw maybe four people maybe in the theater. Maybe. I walked in and it was kind of dark. I thought that I saw like two couples, like two twos of people. I don't even know if they were couples, but they were, pairs of people sitting there. And then by the time the credits came up, neither of those were there, but I did see like a couple actually walk out. So I think four people were in my theater.
Wow.
Sad.
How do these? Isn't Christmas when theaters are supposed to be making bank, Tom?
Usually, but we were talking about this earlier on Mr. H. I mean, I'm not going to try and give the studios much leeway on the whole like COVID / whatever thing. But I mean, I think people are a little more conservative on what they're going to spend their money on, especially this year. It feels like they don't have the extra money like they had from the COVID boost and some of the other stuff. So I think that the folks are being a little bit more picky about what they spend their money on, and none of these movies really seem to be enticing folks into the theater. I mean, yeah, Wonka's doing okay, Godzilla's doing amazing, but I mean, in comparison to what movies normally do this time of year, oh no, this is shit. This is absolute shit. And this is Andre's view at the theater. But yeah, that's
There's
how
no
packed it was
buzz.
for him.
There's no buzz. It's been so long since the previous movie. I don't know who even cares about this.
They should have dumped it months ago. Like Script and I had talked about this so many times over, where it's like, why even wait on this shit anymore? Why even bother? And I'm curious because nobody's really said anything about a lot of jarring reshoots or anything. So I've gotten to the point where I'm curious if they just didn't revert back to one of the older cuts that tested better. Because that's what I kept hearing, and it was even confirmed, I think, later on in one of the, or not confirmed, but rumored in one of the other trades too, where they were saying every time they went back for reshoots and came back and retested it, it would test worse and worse every time.
I did think that I saw Amber, like AH. I thought that she was involved in reshoots. The only reason, and I'm not saying this to be mean, like, not that I even like her, I don't, but I'm not trying to attack anybody. Well, even if I did, you'd understand why, but I'm, I don't know how to end this sentence.
If she was, it might have been just to patch up her scenes, because that was probably
she
one of the
seemed to
problems.
be different weight throughout different scenes.
Somebody else mentioned that.
Like one, suddenly I look at her and her face is super puffy, and then in the other,
she had a baby during the making of the movie originally, didn't she? Script.
That's what I think.
So yeah.
So I mean, there's that part of it, and if they
Is
did
that
do
Elon's
reshoots with
baby?
her, I believe so.
Oh, does it look like Elon?
I don't know. That's the rumor, anyway.
Is it?
I mean, I'm asking now. That's what I heard.
That's the big rumor. Yeah.
Wow.
Might be James Franco's too. You never know.
Well, you never know. Yeah. Lord knows it ain't Johnny's probably. But that being said, like, no, I was curious about that too, Price, because yeah, at the end of the day, the only person who everybody said anything about has been Amber, but I haven't heard anybody saying, oh, there's this jarring obvious reshoot here and this jarring obvious reshoot there.
It
Like we
seemed
do with
like
a
it
lot
to
of these
me,
movies.
unless it's weird angle and lighting. There was suddenly a shot that I looked and I'm like, wow, like she seemed very puffy in the face now, and it seemed like not what she looked just a minute earlier in the film. But it could
Mhm.
be just an angle, and I didn't realize maybe she was puffy throughout the whole thing. But I personally thought she was different puffiness. I even thought that with Jason Momoa, first of all, for this movie, I feel like he didn't get in the same shape as the previous one. The previous one,
Mhm.
he was slim and fit. And in this one, I kind of feel I don't maybe it was part of the reshoot. Some shots I looked at him, they put all this kind of suit on him, so maybe it's hard to notice. But sometimes I look at him, I'm like, did he kind of gain a few pounds here? So I was thinking about that with him also.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if what reshoots exist still is just stuff to patch up editing around her, because they would have removed anything that led to any kind of promise of a future. Because Andre even said that there's nothing to set up anything in the future. And they've pretty much been now finally owning that this is the end of the road. Like I said, I won't be surprised if in a few weeks or less than that, Momoa comes out and says, "Yeah, I'm gonna be Lobo."
Probably saved
Probably.
before New Year's Day.
Yeah.
There's a pee-pee joke that involves AH, and it's a surprising one because anything that has to do with somebody going to the bathroom and her, it's not a good joke to put them to put those two together.
Not reading the room very well, I
Not
suppose.
reading the room at all. I'm like, oh, like well, out of all of their reshoots and edits, they couldn't have fixed this. That's what that was. That was one of the actually things that I was really surprised at when I saw the movie, even though it was just a brief toss away joke.
Mhm. All right. Well, with that, I think we're gonna wrap things up here because there wasn't too much else to really dig into too deep, and there's other stuff going on tonight as well. Um, CC, what do you got going on?
Friday night karaoke tomorrow.
That's right. Price, you got anything coming up tonight? I know you do.
Yes, I'm doing with Script and a few other friends. We're doing Quantum Leap from the classic original series on Price of Reason Live on my live channel, and that's today at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome sauce. And script, I'm assuming that's where you're going to be later on. And anything else you want to plug besides that?
Outside of that, yeah, just follow me on Twitter because I'm going to be doing if my schedule works out, I'll be doing 2 countdown episodes to my Scripts on Saturday show starting on the 6th of Jan. So find me on Saturday 7 Eastern this Saturday and next Saturday, kind of gearing up towards that launch. It's going to be a really fun show, and the people that I've got involved you're all going to really love, and I can't wait for you guys to see it.
All right. Mikey, anything you got going on since you're the world's bestest YouTuber ever?
That would be hashtag fake news, like this Warner Paramount merger.
Fine. Be that way. You going to be on the morning show?
After I take my mom to she's got a hair appointment.
All right. So hopefully we'll see Mikey on the morning show. So yeah, I may pop into comics later. I don't know. Depends. If all they're going to talk about is Aqua Turd, then yeah, it all depends. Jed, I've been trying to work on that. We might do something Saturday. I think Bill said he might be able to do something Saturday. So maybe Saturday. I don't want to say for sure, but I got to reach back out to him again and make sure. Kaleki Oki also gifted a membership. Thank you for that. We appreciate that, my friend. And I just want to say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate to you guys all out there.
Merry Christmas!
And yeah, we will see you sooner than later on the morning show and beyond. Take care of yourselves and each other. And thank you for being here, Jay.